Right. I'm actually recording this one last out of all the other lectures because there were some technical difficulties. Everything was all blurry, but I was able to crop it up. So really all I have to do is explain where budget constraints come from and how they're determined. So basically, I know there's a lot of lines up here, but essentially the way to do it, this W1, you just draw, let me start over. So you draw your curve, you draw your graph, have labor down here, leisure up here and labor down here. Just remember that they're inversely related, so 24 hours of leisure is equal to 0 hours of labor, and 12 and 12, and then 0, 24. And then income on the other side, because it's dependent on how many hours you work or how many hours of leisure you consume. So the first one I drew is this one right here, where it's, let's say this is 1, don't worry about this prime. This is 2, and then 3, and then 4. So think about it like this. Your first one is here. So if your wage increases, that means you actually move your budget constraint up, because you're dependent on this portion right here, because your 24 hours in a day doesn't move dependent on how many hours you work. That's just kind of, can't do that. So once you get up here, if your wage increases again, you can go up to here. Let's say your wage decreases dramatically, so then you would go down even past the point at which you were at originally with your wage 1. One other detail to consider is that as your wage increases, the slope of the budget constraint, which is this thing right here, the budget constraint here is equal to the wage. So this is, if your wage was equal to $10, then this would be wages at $10. And it's downward sloping, and if it's downward sloping, that means it has to be negative, so it's just negative here. So that's what your budget constraint is equal to. And a more technical definition, or a technical way to look at it, is the change in income divided by your change in hours. And that's a constant. That's why it's straight and linear, not why it's curvy or anything like that. So your income changes given a change in hours. That's where the budget constraint comes from, and hopefully that was quicker than beforehand. And then, in the next video we'll show you what happens when you combine budget constraints and utility curves.